What really went on during the last days of America's most famous sheriff, Andy Griffith, who used to be the happy face of family-friendly TV, died alone and in pain. His house on the coast was left to fall apart in quiet. No cameras, no cheers, just the sounds of an institution dying. You might be shocked by what you learn about his wife, kids, and the money he left behind. A lot of people are interested in Andy Griffith's personal life as well as his impressive work. Andy Griffith joined Phi Alpha Symphonia in 1945 while he was a student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Phi Alpha Symphonia is a well-known national social music group for men. This group's goal was to improve music in the United States and encourage artists to get along with each other. It was the first sign of Griffith's lifelong connection to the performing arts. In later years, his work as an actor and singer would show how much he loved music, especially church and folk. Griffith married her on August 22, 1949. She was also an actress and a performer, and they both loved music and theater. When they got married, it was the start of a big change in Griffith's personal life. During their marriage, they adopted 2 children, a boy named Andy Samuel Griffith Jr., born in 1957, who is often just called Sam, and a daughter named Dixie Nan Griffith. During these years, Griffith became more famous in the entertainment business, but he stayed close to his family and kept up an image of love and fatherly care that matched his on-screen persona. Griffith and Barbara tried to make their family life safe, but over time they grew apart. In 1972, they finally got a divorce. When Griffith and his wife broke up, he was moving on to new parts of his work. But it was also a hard time for this actor emotionally. Their son Sam had problems with his own fears his whole life. He wanted to work as a real estate developer, but he struggled with drunkenness for a long time. Sam died very suddenly in 1996, when he was 38 years old. Griffith was very sad about his death. Even though they had some problems with each other, the pain of losing a child would never go away. Griffith met and became friends with Greek actress Selika Kajudo after his first marriage ended. They got married in 1973, just 1 year after he split up with Barbara, and stayed together until 1981. A lot of people don't know much about this marriage, but Griffith seemed to be enjoying a calmer time in his life. The couple stayed out of the public eye, and by 1981, they had also broken up. He married Cindy Knight on April 12, 1983, which was his third and last marriage. They met in 1981 while Knight was acting in The Lost Colony, an outdoor play that has been going on for a long time in Monticello, North Carolina. Griffith had also been in The Lost Colony. Griffith's ties to the area and to theater were rekindled when they met. Griffith was a lot older than Cindy, but they were able to stay together. They stayed faithful to each other until Griffith's death in 2012. During their marriage, Cindy was often seen with him, and as his health started to get worse in the last few years of his life, she helped take care of him. Griffith was also proud to be a grandfather. 3 grandkids were born to him through his daughter Dixie. Dixie chose to live a mostly quiet life away from the fame and attention that followed her father. However, she has shared memories of Griffith that show his kinder, more personal side. Griffith was very close to his family, even though he was famous. That being said, Griffith's personal life was not always easy. A book written by Daniel DeVis in 2015 called Andy and Dawn, The Making of a Friendship and a Classic American TV Show, says that Griffith had an affair with actress Annetta Corsaw. Griffith's character on The Andy Griffith Show was in love with Helen Crump, played by Corsaw. There are several sources in the book that say they stayed together during the 5 years they worked on the show. People in the cast and team were said to know about it. Griffith was still married to Barbara at the time, and the affair made the public's clean and idealized view of him more complicated. Even though he knew this secret, Griffith kept his cool on set, and his chemistry with Corsaw was often praised as one of the most believable parts of the popular show. Fans paid extra attention to Andy Griffith's health problems as well as his troubled marriages. He had major health problems in the last few decades of his life, which were often kept secret from the public until they got too bad to ignore. In April 1983, he was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare and serious autoimmune disorder in which the body's immune system attacked the peripheral nerves by mistake. This was his first big health crisis. The beginning of a hard and very personal fight is this diagnosis. Griffith was partly paralyzed from the knees down because of the syndrome. For about 7 months, he couldn't walk. During this time, Griffith had to go through a lot of physical therapy and rehabilitation, which required the same amount of determination and toughness that he showed on screen. Even though his cancer was very bad, he refused to let it control his life or his future. Later, his friends and coworkers talked about how tough and patient he was while he was healing, and how he never lost his sense of humor or good nature. He was able to walk again in the end, but the experience changed the way he thought about life and health forever. After almost 20 years, Griffith's heart condition would become very clear. He had a quadruple heart bypass surgery at Santara Norfolk General Hospital in Norfolk, Virginia, on May 9, 2000. He had surgery to clear out blockages in his coronary arteries, which is a typical but serious problem for people his age. Griffith, who was in his mid-70s at the time, made it through the surgery well and began the long road to healing again. During this time, the star stayed mostly out of the public eye, but his continued public and TV appearances afterward gave fans hope that he was getting better. Problems with health would not go away, though. Griffith went back to the hospital on September 5, 2007, this time for surgery on his hip after he fell. The surgery took place in Los Angeles at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, one of the best hospitals in the country. Falls and hip injuries are especially bad for older people, and they often cause long-term problems with movement. Griffith's body had already been through a lot of damage, so the surgery was another test of how strong he was. People close to him afterward confirmed that he slowly got stronger again, even though it was clear that he was becoming weaker with age. Details of his recovery were kept pretty quiet at the time. Griffith spent more and more time at his home on Roanoke Island in Monticello, North Carolina, which had always been important to him, and less time in public life as the years went by. It was there, full of it was with his third wife, Cindy Knight, in the Outer Banks, where he loved the natural beauty and quiet of small-town life. The couple lived a quiet life, away from the cameras and lights that had been a big part of Griffith's life. Griffith died of a heart attack on July 2, 2012. Even though it happened at home, expert help could not fix what happened. Andy Griffith died the next morning, July 3, 2012, at the age of 86. His death certificate later showed that besides the heart attack, he had been getting worse for a long time because of a number of long-term conditions, such as hypertension, high blood pressure, coronary artery disease, and hyperlipidemia, high amounts of fat in the blood. These health issues, especially when they happen together, affect a lot of older people and can put a lot of stress on the circulatory system. Another strange thing about Griffith's death was how quickly and privately his funeral plans were made. As he had asked and as had been planned for a long time, there was no public burial or memorial service. In just 5 hours after he died, he was buried on Roanoke Island in a family site. Griffith was very private, especially in his last years, and his choice to not do any public work showed that, even after decades of fame and respect, he wanted a quiet and personal farewell. Many fans and news sites were shocked by how quickly and quietly he was buried, which led to a flood of tributes and memories from all over the country. The public was not given a final chance to say goodbye, but Griffith's influence lived on through the many lives he had touched. He made a lot of important contributions to American music and TV, like his groundbreaking part as Sheriff Andy Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show and his commanding performance in Matlock. Let's take a look at Andy Griffith's wealth, especially his houses. The house where Andy Griffith grew up in Mount Airy, North Carolina, at 711 East Highmore Street, is more than just a simple house. It is a live memorial to the early life of one of the most famous entertainers in the United States. This single-story ranch-style home is in a small town that is often said to have inspired the fictional town of Mayberry. It gives fans and history buffs alike a chance to follow in the footsteps of the man who helped shape classic American television. Griffith grew up in this house with his parents, Carl Lee Griffith and Geneva Griffith, until he graduated from Mount Airy High School in 1944. In its earlier, smaller form, the house saw the humble beginnings of a young boy who would go on to win millions of hearts with his parts in The Andy Griffith Show, Matlock, and many stage and film productions. Andy helped the people who helped him from the start of his career by giving back to them after he became famous and rich. This house was fixed up and made bigger for his parents, making it a more comfortable place to live. While still keeping its simple style, the building is now owned and run by the nearby Hampton Inn, and it can be rented by the night. Fans of Griffith come from all over the country to relive a part of their childhood memories. The house has been carefully restored to look like it did in the 1930s and 1940s, right down to the vintage style decorations that remind us of the time when Andy lived there. Memorabilia like framed newspaper stories, replica props, and a library of DVD from the Andy Griffith Show fill the rooms, making the experience feel like it's a mix of the past and the present. There are 2 bedrooms inside the house. One has a king-size bed and the other has a queen-size bed. The cozy kitchen has old-fashioned tools and dishes, and it leads into a cute living room that makes you think of the ease and comfort of a bygone era. The single bathroom is very small, which makes Andy think of how simple his childhood was. The house is charming, even though it's not very big. It makes people want to slow down and enjoy a simpler way of life. You can have a picnic or a quiet evening under the stars in the big, grassy garden that has a charcoal grill and a picnic table. It's easy to picture Andy as a child, playing in the yard or thinking under the stars in North Carolina. Even though the house has some old-fashioned features, it also has all the modern conveniences you could want. A short walk away is the Hampton Inn, where guests can enjoy free Wi-Fi, air conditioning, and a free meal. The house can easily sleep up to 5 people, and there are rollaway beds for bigger groups. Rates per night range from about $179 on days when there aren't any events to $200 during fairs and other special occasions. It is best to make reservations ahead of time, especially during Mayberry Days, an annual event in Mount Airy that brings Andy Griffith Show fans from all over the country. It looks even better because of where it is. From downtown Mount Airy, it's easy for tourists to walk to the Andy Griffith Museum, the historic Earl Theater, and the famous Snappy Lunch, a diner that was featured on the Andy Griffith Show and is famous for its pork chop sandwich. Because the stores have been kept, the cute downtown area feels like you've gone back in time. After having a lot of success on Broadway in the late 1950s, Andy Griffith made a big choice that showed both his roots and his growing fame as an artist. He bought a simple house on Roanoke Island in North Carolina, not far from the small town of Monteau. Griffith didn't just buy this property because he wanted to sell it. It was also a highly personal sanctuary where he could get back to the slower, simpler rhythms of life that had shaped him as a child in the North Carolina Piedmont. He spent his summers here acting in The Lost Colony, an outdoor historical play that tells the story of the Roanoke settlers again and again. It was there that he developed his love for community, history, and living on the coast. The house was bought with money from his early Broadway wins, a real sign of how hard he had worked. During the height of his TV and movie careers, Griffith mostly lived in Southern California, but the Roanoke Island home was a beloved family getaway. Griffith would take his family and get away from the liveliness of Hollywood in the summer by going to this quiet, private 70-acre home on the beautiful Roanoke Sound. The property was in a great spot with beautiful views of the water, gentle breezes from the coast, and space to relax away from the public eye. People who knew Griffith well said that his Roanoke Island home was not flashy or showy like many famous people's homes. Instead, they said it was comfortable but simple. Inside, it was filled with a wide range of art, antiques, and memorabilia that showed how much Griffith loved his hometown of Mount Airy and the customs of the American South. The decor was cozy and welcoming, with lots of things that reminded him of his childhood, the beginning of his work, and how much he loved music and telling stories. That's where history and personal memories came together in this place to honor and enjoy the past. Griffith wanted the house to be more than just a place to relax. Friends and co-workers who knew him well, like the famous costume designer William Ivy Long and his close friend Edward Green, said that Griffith wanted to keep the estate so that it could one day be a museum about his music and acting careers. He hoped it would become a spot where his fans could get together to honor his body of work and the difference he had made in culture over the years. Griffith had a strong sense of legacy that was based on community, education, and a love of telling stories through music and theater. The idea of a museum fit with this. In addition to being a place for families to get away, Griffith's Roanoke Island home was a busy place for social events when he visited. There was a lot of laughing, friendship, and fun in the sun. Pontoon boat trips on the Sound were a common activity for family and friends who liked the calm water and beautiful scenery. People loved playing volleyball and getting together in the big backyard, which made them feel like they were part of the close-knit groups Griffith often showed on screen. Even though the house was important to Griffith and many people who knew him, what happened to it after he died in 2012 caused a lot of sadness and debate. Griffith's third wife, Cindy Griffith, got a permit to tear down the house in March 2013, less than a year after he died. After that, the house was torn down, which shocked and upset many fans and friends who had thought it would be kept as a cultural landmark. People who loved the property thought that tearing it down was like losing a real piece of Griffith's history. They saw it as a place where future generations could learn about the man behind the famous TV character and his link to North Carolina's rich cultural tapestry. When the house on Roanoke Island was destroyed, it led to conversations about legacy, protection, and respect for historic sites connected to famous people. For many, the house was more than just stone and wood. It carried stories of an easier life in America and was a clear link to Griffith's real roots and the values he often stood for. The quiet respect and beautiful scenery of Griffith's estate stood in stark contrast to the busy worlds of Hollywood and national fame. They showed a personal side of Griffith that the public rarely saw. Andy Griffith also had a strong connection to Roanoke Island, North Carolina, in both his personal and business life. But it wasn't until his later years that a new story began to be written on this peaceful coastal retreat. Along with his third wife, Cindy Griffith, he built a bigger, more modern house on the same 70-acre estate that had been home to his modest 1950s residents. This made it possible for the family to live on the island longer. This new house, which was different from the old one, gave him peace, comfort, and a chance to stay close to the land that had been important to him for a long time. Just south of the Water-Eyed Theater, Griffith started his famous career playing in the Lost Colony at this outdoor venue. His newer home stood as a reminder of how he balanced the demands of fame with a deep love for simplicity and community. The older house was smaller and reminded Griffith of his childhood. The newer house, on the other hand, was built later in Griffith's life to meet the needs of his growing family and give him a comfortable modern place to live when he went to the island for his many vacations. The land, which was made up of several lots adding up to 70 acres, was a large, private area with lots of natural beauty. Tall pines and native plants circled the house, giving Griffith, who is a famous person, a sense of privacy that is hard to find for someone of her status. There was a private pier on the estate that went out into the calm waters of Roanoke Sound. This gave people a chance to enjoy the views and go fishing or reflecting in peace. Griffith loved the slow pace and gentle rhythms of this idyllic setting, which was very different from the often hectic energy of Hollywood, where he spent most of his work. Griffith spent most of his later years in this modern Roanoke Island home. He made it his main home until he died in 2012 at the age of 86. Even though he was successful and well-known, the island retreat helped him live a quiet life based on friendships and simple joys. People who knew Griffith at this point in his life often said how humble he was and how much he valued local culture and bonds over the trappings of fame. People who lived in Monteo and the nearby areas remember seeing Griffith from time to time in familiar places in town, like the Semark grocery store or the Owens restaurant. Both are well, liked parts of the town. He wanted to stay connected to normal life and the people around him, so these trips weren't big social events. Instead, they were quiet, casual visits. His presence was quietly woven into the island's daily life in many ways, and his friendly personality made him a loved member of the community. Specifics about the modern home's size, plan, and interior design are still kept secret, but it is known that it was made to fit Griffith and Cindy's needs and is likely a mix of traditional and modern elements that work well for coastal living. The house wasn't so much about being luxurious as it was about making a peaceful haven where Griffith could unwind, have small gatherings with close friends, and enjoy the natural beauty around him. After Griffith's death in July, the farm moved into a new phase in 2012. Reports from island residents and friends say that Cindy Griffith, who had lived with him on the island, spent a lot less time there after he died. When Griffith left, the property went through a sad change because he was no longer there to bring it to life. Griffith had made the island his home away from the world. Andy Griffith's professional life was mostly based in Hollywood, California, from the 1960s to the 1980s, when he was at the top of his TV business. Griffith had two homes in the Tuca Lake area, which is a quiet and beautiful neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley area of Los Angeles. These homes were perfect for this part of Griffith's life. During the decades when he was hard at work making famous TV shows like The Andy Griffith Show and later Matlock, these homes were his main homes. Tuca Lake is known for its cute neighborhood feel, with streets lined with trees, cute parks by the lake, and a close-knit community that has drawn many famous people over the years. Because the area was both private and close to big Hollywood studios, it was perfect for actors like Griffith, who wanted to get away from the spotlight while still being able to easily get to work. The addresses of Griffith's homes in Tuca Lake are hard to find because they are not listed in public records or biographies. However, it is clear that they were important to his personal and business life in Los Angeles. These homes gave Griffith the stable, comfortable environments he needed to balance the demands of shooting several TV shows with the slower pace of home life. Griffith had his first big hit on TV with The Andy Griffith Show, which ran from 1960 to 1968. During this time, he spent most of his time in Los Angeles, where the show was shot. It's possible that he bought his first home in Tuca Lake around this time to accommodate his busy studio schedule and long filming days. Griffith's home would have been a safe place for him to relax after long days on the set, and a place for him to meet family, friends, and coworkers from his Hollywood circle. In the years after The Andy Griffith Show, Griffith kept working steadily in movies and TV shows. By the 1980s, he was back in style with the court drama Matlock, which ran from 1986 to 1995. This series was an important later part of his work, and it also required him to live close to Hollywood studios. It's likely that Griffith owned or lived in a second home in Tuca Lake during or before this time. This would have given him a new, maybe even updated place to live that met his changing needs as an older star and family man. There aren't many records that go into specifics about these Tuca Lake homes, like their architectural style, size, indoor features, or even when the current owners bought them. Unlike the homes of some famous people, Griffith's homes were mostly kept secret. This was because he was a normal person who liked privacy even when he was in the spotlight. Unfortunately, there aren't any records that show the exact years he bought or sold these houses. They also don't show any details about renovations or important events that happened on the properties. Having two homes in Tuca Lake during such a crucial time shows how carefully Griffith placed himself in the Hollywood ecosystem. The fact that he chose Tuca Lake over more flashy or well-known neighborhoods shows how simple his life is. Griffith was a friendly, approachable man who often played beloved, relatable characters on screen, and the neighborhood's quiet streets and low-key vibe went well with his off-screen image. Also, it's possible that these homes were more than just places to sleep and store things. A solid home life was important for an actor who cared deeply about his work and his family's well-being. It seems likely that Griffith could find balance in these Toluca Lake homes, which would have helped him with his demanding playing career while also giving his family comfort and stability. What do you think about Andy Griffith? Please tell us what you think in the box below. We hope this video was helpful for you. Kindly click like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoy the video, glad you watched and see you in the next film. Thank you.